Compared with Garp and other people's inspiration, Sengoku, known as the resourceful general, thinks more rationally and realistically. He looked at Roy, who was determined in front of him, and suddenly asked in a deep voice. So you can't wait any longer? You will have countless opportunities in the future. Whether it's revenge, or anything else. Roy grinned. Cannot. Wait? When will you wait? If I don't take action today, I can't swallow it down. I can't think about that much. Sengoku Admiral. Wait for me to become stronger? Even with Admiral's combat power? How long does that take? 3 years? 5 years? 10 years? I don't want that. Roy's eyes are splitting. Lousy is fighting now. There will always be untimely times in life. You always think that you are not ready. Others will always think you are not ready, let you wait. Save more, but how can there be so many? Wait a minute. We are just a group of passionate and reckless teenagers. Properly, happily, live well today. Isn't it the best return to youth? Some things. You don't do it today, I will never do it. Hesitate, retreat, stop moving, use various reasons such as prudent, insurance, etc. to convince yourself. Isn't this deceiving one's heart to some extent? Roy didn't want to be like this. Lousy don't want. Kunzi's revenge is not too late for 10 years. Lousy wants revenge now. It doesn't matter if you fail in the end. It's enough as long as I try my best. Nothing matters anymore. The cold wind that soaked the world, the ice rain slapped on the body, and the gust of wind that made people hard to walk. Roy, wet and scarred, now I just want to have a good fight. He raised his head to look at Sengoku in front of him, then looked at the countless Marines staring at him on the battlefield, looking straight into the eyes of all of them. I want to fight, he said. This sentence. Make him tremble all over, not a slight tremor. It was a violent tremor that spread from the deepest part of the body. The energy of the meridians rushing in the body, the pain that gushed out like mountains and seas, suddenly hit his throat, causing his entire face to be distorted. Then, the deepest part of the body, that gate. Slowly, open. Boom. The spiral-shaped surging airwave roared violently from Roy's body, rising like a hurricane. The azure, deep color seems to carry a heavy burden that ordinary people can't bear. Kill. Roy roared in a sigh. The ground beneath his feet suddenly shattered into countless fragments, and suddenly collapsed into a huge pit. Sengoku's face changed slightly, but he was surprised to find that Roy in front of him had disappeared from him strangely. That powerful wave of air hit his face, causing his body to retreat 2 steps involuntarily. Damn. You little lunatic. Sengoku was shocked and worried and turned his head to look, only to see a poignant and dreamy blue light that flew in midair. Under the feet, as if walking on the ground. This moment. Everyone was stunned, only feeling the blood in their hearts boiling like magma. Come on, Golden Lion. Roy's roar completely resounded throughout the battlefield at this moment. His figure is like a roaring tiger, stepping on the air and sweeping towards the grinning Golden Lion. The 5th gate of the 8 inner gates, the Domain, will increase exponentially in speed and strength after opening, and the speed is enough to drive the air to lift the ground when it moves. Every time I stepped in the air, I stepped on a violent cyclone in the void. You are dying. The dull voice of the system sounded in his mind. I have existed for so long, and I have never seen someone as crazy as you. The 5th gate of the 8 inner gates was successfully opened by you. Snapped. A cloud of blood exploded on Roy's feet, and he rose up into the sky covered in blood. Now you see it. You are just a system, don't worry about me. The system freezes. I said this is not a concern. Only, you. Really bring you kind. The dim sky gradually became dazzling with the rise of blue light. Like a rising star, dazzling, dazzling, very gorgeous. At this moment, every Marine on the battlefield was staring at the shining figure with red eyes, as if the inner stubbornness, unwillingness and fear all disappeared at this moment. He wants to fight, then fight. Nothing else needed. Briefly, the world is silent. Immediately after. Thousands of Marineford roars and shouts sounded deafeningly throughout Marineford. Kill. Avenge for our comrades in arms. For justice. Protect Roy. The banner of justice. At this moment, scrambling to rise. Follow the figure of that young boy who dances freely. All Marines present are all towards the pirate in front of him. Start charging. War. The wind screamed. The rain is intensive. The sound of wind and rain hitting the ground is dense like a drum at this moment. Come on. Kill. Protect Roy. We want revenge. As if there was a rush of death and no life, the thunder and rain in the sky were overshadowed by the sky-shaking rush of killing. This is since the outbreak of this war, naval headquarters is the most heroic, fanatical, sensational and shocking cry. The flying pirates raid in the early hours of the night. The horrible bombing of artillery fire, the invasion of civilian areas. The frontal battlefield was suppressed. Everything, the rhythm and initiative of the war. From the very beginning, he was pinched to death by the captain of the flying pirate group in the legendary big pirate Golden Lion Shiki. Even the stunning shots of the three Admiral-class combat powers of Sengoku, Kizaru and Aokiji on the marine side failed to restore the extremely low and depressed morale. The army is weak, all the soldiers were beaten at the beginning of the war. Especially the fall of the civilian area, it made their hearts unable to settle down and focus on the main battlefield in front of them. But now, with Roy's shot again, accompanied by his shocking shout, everyone recovered in an instant. Yes, Golden Lion Shiki is the mastermind of this war. He massacred our countless comrades in arms. Look at the corpses all over the place. Our comrades in arms, just like that Roy. All died in this land, died in front of them. But he was holding back here, cowering. Why? The figure entwined with blue airwaves rose higher and higher, and the sky had completely become his main battlefield. And the light swaying down from the earth became clearer. On the bloody ground with deep blue light, open your eyes and look out. Are there comrades in arms, everywhere? Follow Roy to kill. Try to protect him. For justice. Clench your fists and fight wantonly. All the Marines have red eyes, enthusiastically moving in Roy's direction, and spontaneously moving closer. The snow-white military robes behind them are dancing in the wind. From the direction of Garp, Sengoku and others, it was like a mighty blue and white Wang-yang, converging towards their center. They directly intercepted many of the pirates who were trying to rush towards Roy, and the unsheathing of sabers fluctuated. Turbulent emotions, soaring fighting spirit, this moment turned into a turbulent torrent. Condensed into a magnificent picture. Unimaginable, the turning point of this war. Marine turned defense into an offensive opportunity. It turned out to be the shot of a military academy. Both Garp and Sengoku stared blankly at the same place, and there was a kind of imposing shock in their hearts. They have never seen such a scene. No orders from anyone. All Marines unanimously want to fight with a teenager who is countless younger than them. The picture created by this strong contrast is undoubtedly extremely shocking. They think it's worth it. Garp suddenly laughed. The whole old man is a little bit enthusiastic. Sengoku was silent, gleaming in his vicissitudes of life. As an experienced veteran Marine, he can naturally understand the meaning of Garp's voice. Yes, they think it's worth it. Even if that young man does not have monstrous power. There is no terribly high military rank, but with his determination and will to avenge his comrade in arms. He deserves to let all the Marines on the scene ignite fighting spirit and follow him to charge. Maybe everyone lives in this world for different purposes. Their personalities are also different because of their various backgrounds and experiences. But on the battlefield, in the army, one thing is clear. That is, they have the same identity. They are all soldiers. The soldier is not a lonely identity. They are a member of the army. All the achievements of the soldiers, in addition to their personal will, to a large extent, their glory comes from the sacrifice of their comrades in arms. The star-studded military medal on his shoulders contained the flesh and blood of those comrades who went to death for them generously. The pain of losing a comrade in arms has been experienced by everyone present. So they can understand Roy's inner pain at this moment better than anyone else. The glory I got, the status that one has acquired. They were all exchanged for the blood and life of their comrades in arms and robe. If they hadn't used their lives to protect themselves, it is estimated that they would be lying on the ground now. They wanted to avenge their comrades more than once. Give up more than once, crying in front of his comrades' graves. Secretly guilty and self-blaming why I didn't act impulsively and recklessly. Yes, although Roy is naive, impulsive, and even stupid. But this one is stupid, lousy wants it too. Marine is to follow discipline, yes, but he couldn't even take revenge for his comrades. You are still a shit man. At this moment, everyone raised the saber in their hands with red eyes. The heart is full of light, and at this time, in the sky, Roy finally again came in front of Golden Lion. Eyes, decisive. Looking at the face full of grinning and cruelty, Roy's heart was cold. The roaring airwave wrapped around his feet, and with a violent shout, Roy kicked the Golden Lion's head hard. The air suddenly burst into an astonishing blast, and the sharpness similar to the sword chi/suddenly neighed. This foot, it actually kicked out the speed of sound that exceeded several times, bursting out a cutting force even more amazing than tempest kick. Sudden. A thin figure turned into a phantom and flickered in front of Golden Lion, and also raised his foot and kicked it towards Roy. Boom. A roar like thunder suddenly sounded, and the figure quickly became clear in Roy's eyes. His face was as thin as bones, his two inverted triangular eyes were filled with shadows, and behind him was a pair of green wings that were as thin as cicada wings shaking slightly. It's the captain of the 2nd Division of the Flying Pirates. The New World Big Pirate with a bounty of 960 million Baileys. The Ripper. Flying Mantis, read. There was an exclamation in the Marine crowd. Tisk tusk 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 tusk, funny Marine kid, although I don't know what method you used, you actually improved your combat power a lot. But if you let you act unscrupulously on our captain in this way, it would be too small to underestimate our flying pirates. Flying Mantis, Reed hissed with a sneer on his face, blocking Roy's attack with one foot. Behind him, Golden Lion also half squinted his violent eyes, and his eyes towards Roy were full of undisguised murderous intent. He saw everything in the scene just now. This kid, in a few words, caused Marine's morale to soar in vain, and even led Marine's counterattack. In addition, this has significantly increased the combat power more than doubled and is close to the captain of his own squad. This age, this terrible appeal. If this kid grows up successfully, he will definitely be an extremely scary character, even more terrifying than the so-called monsters of Akainu, Kizaru and Aokiji. Golden Lion is a legendary big thief who dominated the New World in the Roger era and crossed the world. His ability to see people is much stronger and more thorough than countless people. He understands deeply, on this sea, even in the second half of the New World of the Grand Line, Marine is still the unquestionable overlord. Although the current Marine has not officially and comprehensively entered the New World, this does not mean that Marine does not have such strength. The reason why Marine did not move was largely because it was dealing with historical issues remaining after the Roger era, and the high-level internal management was about to change blood, which also led to Marine's inability to concentrate its right to speak. Golden Lion is Marine's old opponent, especially after he was arrested and imprisoned last time. He repeatedly studied Marine's weaknesses in the prison. This time the massive invasion of Marineford was not a whim, but was premeditated. He quite understands that Marine, as a highly armed military group, is powerful because the army has a stronger centripetal force than the pirates. This kind of cohesion and centripetal force can make Marine break out more terrifying combat power than the same number of pirates in large-scale group operations. Only, this kind of centripetal force and cohesion has not reappeared for a long time. Because Zephyr retired, the big pirates of the time, including Roger, Whitebeard and Golden Lion, all agree that the trickiest character in Marine is not Sengoku, who is known as the resourceful general, and has a strategy, nor is it Garp, the strongest seaman with the title of hero, and it is not the first person in power, Kong. It's the purple-haired bastard who is not amazing in talent and not dazzling ability. Because he has a terrifying army appeal than Garp, Sengoku or even Kong. In the past many New World wars, no matter it is any pirate group, facing the fleet led by Zephyr himself, they all avoid it. The madman with purple hair, to start a war. Not only is he crazy, his subordinates will be like lunatics. Rush to kill like you don't want to die, never back. The word, retreat, never be in the dictionary of the fleet led by Zephyr. Dead or not, this is the greatest portrayal of Zephyr in his life. Golden Lion has played against Zephyr more than once. But he was helpless, there is no way at all. Even if you have a team battle like Lionfruit. Because Zephyr's army appeal is too strong. And now, a character similar to Zephyr appeared again in Marine. Even more frightening is that this person is still quite young. Thinking about it this way, a dignified jealousy flashed across Golden Lion's eyes when he looked at Roy. The strength of the army's combat effectiveness. There is a vital connection with the personal will of the coach. Such a kid, if it grows up in the future, if he took over the Seagull flag. Looking at the crazy faces of countless Marines on the battlefield below, with a pair of crimson decisive eyes, Golden Lion's heart was cast with a bottomless shadow. This kid must not stay. This moment, looking at the Marine boy who was fighting with his 2nd Division captain, the Golden Lion's eyes flashed with an incomparable cold light, killing intent in his heart. Go away, don't hinder me. At this time, Roy's low, calm, angry voice rang hoarse. Scarlet Eyes half squinted, quickly glanced at the strange-looking guy in front of him, and said coldly. The translucent green wings, like cicada wings, trembled slightly in the void, giving the pirate the ability to fly in the air. Hearing Roy's words, "Flying mantis," Reed sneered and said, "It can't. But I didn't expect a military academy student in your neighborhood to possess such strength. The students of Black Arm Zephyr, are they pervert like this one by one?" He glanced at the three tall figures standing on the ground, and then at Roy. Feeling the terrifying power passing from his feet, Reed's heart was not as relaxed as it was on his face. This Marine kid obviously doesn't have a master hockey yet, but he abruptly matches himself with that strange blue airwave. Especially the pure, powerful explosive power and strength gained after breaking through the limits of physical fitness has a tendency to faintly overwhelm oneself. If it weren't for armament hockey's blessing, it is estimated that in terms of physical strength, he would really not be the opponent of this Marine imp. But, you without master hockey, after all, can't understand how terrifying the gap between hockey's master or not is. Reed smiled cruelly, and the wings behind him shook slightly, and his figure moved back several meters. I only heard him scream. There was an astonishing and strange change in his hands. Like a worm, his hands changed rapidly, and in the blink of an eye they turned into a pair of extremely sharp mantis blades. Tisk tusk tusk tusk. New World strong Yamato horror is far from what you can imagine as an ignorant kid who has never stepped out of naval headquarters. Armed color harden. Huh. With the moment his voice fell. A stern and strange black breath quickly lingered on his pair of mantis-sharp blades, reflecting the cold and cold light in the uncertain sky. Damn it. It's hockey, on the battlefield. The faces of Garp and Sengoku changed slightly, and Momosagi and Aokiji on the other side also jumped in their hearts. As the top group of powerhouses standing on this sea, they know better than anyone how terrible hockey's increase in combat power is. Although this kind of ability is rare in the first half of Grand Line, in the second half of Grand Line, New World, it is the basic ability that every strong must master. Armament hockey. This can greatly increase the destructive power of the attack in the defense of the body. It is also the only trick that can touch Logia demon fruit power besides Seastone. Ha 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 ha. Die. I don't know the height of the yellow-haired kid. Let you see the terrible New World with your own eyes. With your ridiculous justice, with your stupid revenge, let's go to hell together. Flying praying mantis. Reed let out a frantic grin, and the cyan blade formed by his hands suddenly slashed towards Roy. The air was easily torn in two cracks. Next moment, a crisscrossed sharp wave of air whizzed towards Roy. The violent wind rushed to the face all of a sudden. Roy felt that sharp aura almost instantly. The blade is not here yet. The wind almost tore his skin. But at the corner of his mouth, an unscrupulous smile suddenly appeared. Yes, this time, facing the New World big pirate with a bounty of nearly 1 billion Baileys. He never had to run away again. The increase in combat power brought by the 8 inner gate's 5th gate, Doman, is not comparable to the 4th gate, Injury Gate. Earth-shaking changes. Air, waves bloomed under his feet. But in a moment, his figure disappeared high in the sky. Reed's eyes widened suddenly, and his pupils contracted tightly. Dodge. This kind of speed. How is it possible? The cross-shaped slash fell violently, submerged into the ground at an astonishing speed, and cut the 2 huge military fortresses alive. Between the rumbling military fortresses collapsing, the ghost of Roy generally appeared above Reed's head. Since you want to stop me, you must have the consciousness of death. His indifferent voice echoed slowly in the void. Not good. Armed color harden. Reed only felt a deep chill burrow into his spine, causing him to shiver suddenly. He didn't care about it. His body had already reacted subconsciously. The pitch-black hockey quickly spread from his hands, wrapping him up and down. Then a fist magnified wildly in front of him. Boom. His figure flew upside down, but this is not over yet. The blue figure appeared behind him at the same time. Boom. Another punch. A mouthful of blood spilled from Reed's mouth. The body shoots forward. Another punch. 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 Like a storm, the famous New World pirate, Flying Mantis, Reed. At this moment it was actually high in the sky. Like a ball, he was blasted frantically by that Marine boy. Roy's strength is so strong. It's too strong. Happy. Is this the meaning of hard work? Can we become as strong as him through hard work? Definitely. I heard that his talent is far from comparable to that of Sakazuki Vice Admiral and the 3 of them. He can't even be called an ordinary genius. But he can do this. We have to work hard too. This moment, All Marines are excited and looking feverishly at the blue figure waving their fists wanton in the sky, and there is a lot of pride in their hearts. Yes, it's different from the monsters, like Akainu, Kizaru and Aokiji, who are so terrifyingly talented to make people feel desperate. The young man who was covered in blood but clenched his teeth, had come to this step with his own hard work, self-discipline and desperation. The success and strength of Akainu and their 3 monsters cannot be replicated. A sense of distance, inability to follow. This is also the first reaction in the mind of ordinary people when they see an amazing talent. But Roy is different. Everyone has witnessed everything he paid for standing up high. Every morning in Marineford, every drop of sweat spilled over the campus. Every time the blood is splattered desperately. Maybe other Marines know in their hearts. Even if you work hard and desperately, it is impossible to reach the level of Roy at this moment. But at this moment, they really understand. Really feel, the article that was uniformly propagated and learned by the high-level military department. What a sincere and candid truth lies behind it. Still lamenting that you are weak? Are you still entangled and hesitated because of all kinds of troubles? You failed to do even the most basic effort. What qualifications do you have for self-pity? Ordinary you, do you still have that effort to be downhearted? The ease of the past, ordinary pleasures. Can it really bring you happiness? Those mornings that can't get up. Those trainings that were abandoned because of laziness. Those days that want to just go by. What did you get in the end? Your comrade in arms died in front of you, but you can only watch indifferently, and you can't even avenge him. You can't even protect yourself. What qualifications do you have to protect your comrades, family and brothers? Effort, isn't it just for myself to one day at the end? When I can't bear it, like that boy, wantonly sway his youth and blood. Towards a powerful enemy that I didn't even dare to think before. Have the courage to shine the sword, really come forward. Protect what you want to protect. Live hard, that will have weight. Run forward, only then can you reach, like that boy. Boom 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 boom. There was a dull roar of fists penetrating the air one after another in the sky. Roy, who was entwined with the energy of 8 inner gates, seemed to turn into a blue phantom light. In the sky, appears, disappears, and reappears in all directions like ghosts. Happily, drippingly, Reed, the 2nd Division captain of the Flying Pirate Group, Flying Mantis, blasted a heavy punch after another. Just a few breaths, his tightly clenched fists were already covered in blood, and even the pale finger bones could be clearly seen. That is the recoil caused by Reed's armed color hardening the defense. But he still gritted his teeth and persevered. Because of his enemies, the injuries suffered. Far more serious than him. Mouth after mouthful of blood spurted frantically from his mouth, messy and scattered the sky full of violent winds. Intercostal, chest, lower abdomen, head, back, waist, every punch of Roy. They all fall exactly in the most vulnerable position in these human bodies. And the armament hockey armor covered by Reed, cracks gradually appeared with the frantic beating. Finally, it was brittle, at a certain moment. The stormy storm suddenly stopped. Reed's figure hovered slowly in midair like a precarious blood-stained catkin. His eyes have been stained with blood, and his vision has also become blurred. In the bloody picture, a pair of cold eyes came into view. Damn. Such a thought suddenly flashed through Reed's mind. This is the last blow. A cold, low and painful voice sounded above his head. Boom. The vigorous, bright blue airwaves suddenly soared again. Ultimate, deeply depressing power, it seemed to make the surrounding air appear one after another vortex, twisted unbearably. Everyone stared at this scene with shocked faces. Boom. The explosion of the air appeared. Roy's figure disappeared. Next moment, a beam of blue light crashed down from the sky, hitting Lade's body like a meteor, and sank into the earth at an astonishing speed. Boom. The earth seemed to have erupted into a small tsunami. Rocks and mud were lifted up one by one. The earth-shaking roar sounded thoroughly throughout the battlefield. Lilianwa annihilation. Strong wind blowing. The air wave attacked. Everyone on the battlefield, whether it was the Marine or the pirates, stared dumbly at the billowing dusty waves rising and spreading out in vain on the ground, and shocked emotions surged in their hearts. If before today, someone told them that a military academy student who had not graduated from naval headquarters was able to crush the captain of a New World super-large pirate regiment with such a powerful posture, they could not believe anything. Even they would definitely think that man was an incurable fool. But this scene before me, but it abruptly subverted their worldview. Momoshagi had already seen red eyes, and even made a choking sound involuntarily. She covered her mouth subconsciously, and crystal tears flowed from her beautiful and white cheeks. She knows better than anyone how much effort and sacrifice Roy has made to get to this point. Behind this invigorating youth, behind this majestic brilliance, how many times are they trying their best and how many times they are exhausted? That feeling, it's like being in the ruins of a desperate situation. In the darkest world, hope, flowers gradually intertwined. It's really amazing. Zephyr, you old bastard, your eyes are still as old as you always have, and you have chosen such a student. Sengoku lightly shook his head with emotions all over his face, sighing in his heart, and his eyes were slightly moist. He saw all Marine's eyes looking at Roy. I saw the determination in Roy's eyes even more. That is a belief that cannot be questioned by others. Has nothing to do with strength, has nothing to do with life and death. Just a desire for sunshine and positive will. Not far away, Aokiji stood still in a daze with his eyes. Do not know why, watching all this Roy did. The blood in his heart, it was boiled after a long absence. This moment, suddenly, in his mind, he remembered a passage that Mr. Zephyr had said to him. A person's life is short as a story, and can be told in a few words. But this is life. It's like a director without a screenwriter, and all the plots and climaxes are unknown. Sometimes you feel that life is as plain as water, without passion. It must be your story hasn't arrived yet. When that day comes, it may be even more powerful and eye-catching than an epic. The highlight of the story is not the moment when the protagonist saves the world and saves the overall situation. But before that, his determination and madness to save the world and turn the tide. Aokiji doesn't know if Roy can do what he wants today. Avenge his comrades in arms. He didn't even know that Roy, after today's battle, whether the latter can survive, but there is no doubt that Aokiji can be 100% sure, at least at this moment. Roy has become in this magnificent war that is destined to be remembered by later generations. The most magnificent, stunning and heroic protagonist. Like an epic, it seems like a legend. He subconsciously opened his eyes to the huge crater that looked like a ruin. A scarlet figure, staggeringly, extremely hard. Like a dying person, staggering to stand up from the billowing dust. So, Roy, next, what will your choice be? Aokiji couldn't help thinking in his mind. His body is almost at its limit. Even if it is a trick like that broke out. On the other side, Akainu murmured in his heart with a tight brow. It's really a wonderful performance. But, I'm afraid you can only come here, Roy Jr. Kizaru held his sunglasses and smiled teasingly. The entire battlefield, currently, are all weirdly. Slowly fell into silence. In the world, only Roy's deep, rapid wheezing came out slowly. Do not know why, everyone looked forward to the young man's next choice. Without any doubt, he has reached the limit of his body. Can continue to maintain a standing posture. It was his last dignity and persistence. He has nothing to do, he is just a human after all. But somehow, every one of them has such an expectation inexplicably. Absurd and unruly, seemingly crazy unfounded expectations. Maybe that boy, he won't just give up like this. Although it seems unreasonable to think this way. But there is such a faint thought in their hearts. He will not give up. Both Sengoku and Garp held their breath. They exchanged glances with each other. A smile overflowed from the corners of his mouth. Unexpectedly, they did not speak again to discourage Roy. But quietly waiting for his answer. Is this expectation? Do not, this is hope. After a breathing time. Roy's breathing suddenly became steady. Everyone can hear his deep inhalation. Then, continue, he hissed. Suddenly. The whole world burst out with the scream of Marine moving mountains and reclaiming the sea. He wants to continue, go ahead. After a brief silence, the war fell into madness again. The moment the voice fell, Roy's figure turned into a beast-like roar again, and the flying mantis, Reed's corpse under his feet was exploded into the blood mist by his heavy foot. In the scarlet blood mist, he turned into a swift phantom and slew towards the center of the battlefield. The surging Marine crowd quickly followed. They don't have too many other distracting thoughts in their minds. They just wanted to open up a bloody path for him as much as possible, so that the Marine boy who made everyone respectful, once again attacked and challenged the golden lion in the sky. Roy ran all the way. Along the way, the surging airwave danced wildly around his body. A pirate who was not weak and offered a bounty of at least 100 million Baileys suddenly screamed and killed him. He is a team leader of the flying pirates with his movements. Hundreds of pirates around also followed closely, turning into a black and overwhelming camp to double-team Roy. The lunatic Marine has already killed their 2nd Division captain, and he doesn't know how many pirates he has killed, so he can't let him continue. His breath has obviously become weak, he will soon be unable to hold it. Must take advantage of this opportunity, kill him. Just kill him. The aura and military spirit of all Marines present will collapse in an instant, and by that time, their odds of winning will be infinitely magnified. The pirates are not stupid, it can be mixed with wind and water in the dangerous seas of New World. They naturally have their own unique set of survival rules. The pirates swarmed like a tide. But seeing a cold smile appeared at the corner of Roy's mouth, the figure suddenly broke out with a more terrifying speed, and slammed into the leader of the small captain pirate. The captain of the pirate squad was slapped alive by Roy's meteor-like impact, like a towed red line smashing through a fortress not far away, and plasma sprayed out. Next moment, in the horrified eyes of hundreds of pirates, Roy faced their offensive, turning into a blue phantom and flashing across the ground. 100 meters away, Roy stopped his figure, panting palely. Immediately after, behind him, hundreds of pirates who seemed to be frozen on the ground. At the same time, there were bursts of painful wailing. Crackling. There was a burst of crisp fractures on their bodies. An inch of blood is like a beautiful plum blossom exploding on the surface of their bodies. Then fell slowly. It's almost effortless. Roy killed hundreds of pirates in an instant. His movements are too fast, soon many other Marines and pirates couldn't catch what he was doing. At this moment, several deep and terrifying figures suddenly appeared around Roy. They are horns of each other, at the same time burst out a violent breath. Kill towards Roy. It's the captains of the flying pirates. They actually shot at the same time, damn. There were bursts of exclamation in the Marine crowd. The timing of the team captain's shots was not bad, they just aimed at Roy's breathing space, and at the same time blocked all his retreats. Kang. Clang. Boom. Boom. Several distinct sounds suddenly exploded. The killer smiles on the faces of the captains of the squad froze. Roy was taken aback for a moment. However, 2 figures had appeared beside him, helping him to block the attack of those powerful pirates. Go. Don't you want revenge? No matter what I say, I can't stop you, can I? Momoshiki held the golden sword in his hand and smiled at Roy. Beside her, a short man with a brown hat and a pretty tight look, smiled helplessly. Little brother Roy, don't let us down. You are also a student of Teacher Zephyr. If you die here, we will lose face. Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral, T. Dolphin Plus. He glanced at Momoshiki and said, as for the Gion matter, I will settle accounts with you later. Momoshiki scolded. Plus, what does my business have to do with you? Roy smiled without saying much, and nodded at both of them. He just wanted to move, and once again killed him towards the Golden Lion, but more pirates rushed towards him. The number was so endless that he couldn't spare his hands at all. But the next scene made him stare. Countless Marines gushed out from behind him and rushed towards the pirates, actually creating a gap for him abruptly. Roy, go on. We will make a way for you. Do not look back. Don't hesitate. If you stop your footsteps, it will be the biggest insult to us. The surrounding Marines laughed happily and wanton, and plunged into the extremely cruel battle. The rain of blood is flying, in a blink. The center of the entire battlefield, it all revolves around Roy, a military school student. Unimaginable, a war turned out to be an astonishing turn because of personal will. But the scene before me happened literally, as in the war on top of the original plot. The entire Whitebeard pirate group revolved around Luffy's actions. The same is true for Marine now. Roy does not have the natural protagonist aura of Luffy. He does not have a strong influence and a solid background. But this does not affect other people's recognition of him. Then, there was such a thrilling and weird picture on the battlefield. Countless Marines, like the mighty blue and white Wangyang frenzy, surrounded by a cadet who keeps running wildly, furiously intercepting the pirates who were murdered with brutal eyes. Marine. What a bunch of stupid guys on the head. In the sky, Golden Lion looked at Roy, who was rushing towards him at an astonishing speed on the ground. And there are countless Marines who are surging around him. Even if they fight to death, they will open a way for him. His eyes gradually became extremely cold and violent, and the grinning at the corners of his mouth became increasingly cold. This kid may not have the powerful combat power to threaten his life. But to some extent, it possesses another extremely powerful force. This power is invisible, unpredictable, but it does exist. Golden Lion has seen such power more than once. On Zephyr, on Roger's body, on Whitebeard. Since Yu Ishin wants to die, let me do you a favor. The cold killing intent of Golden Lion's eyes flashed away. He kicked it hard. Boom. Next moment. There was a sudden change in the howling battlefield. Large tracts of land rose up under people's feet. Ascends to the sky like a galaxy inverted, but in the blink of an eye it condenses into a huge lion. Roar. The lion roars in the sky, like the majesty of Wang Wang. Lion majesty. Earth coiling. The great sky lion, which seemed to cover the sky, seemed to let out a deafening roar, opening its blood basin and biting towards Roy. Wherever it went, whether it is the pirate or marine, they are desperately unable to make any reactions or actions, and can only watch the huge lion swallowing themselves in. The earth burst into an overwhelmed collapse one after another, and billowing dust and airwaves rose into the sky. Roy's face changed slightly, and as soon as he gritted his teeth, the waves of air on his body broke out. But just when he was about to bite the bullet and charge, a tall figure appeared in front of him. In the ear, a deep voice came. Continue to rush. Then, the boundless whiteness of snow, like icy sky and snow, completely seals the lion in the air and freezes it in midair. Among the operating ice crystals scattered all over the sky, Aokiji's figure appeared extremely tall. Roy's heart warmed and he just started to kick his feet. Gia ha ha ha. One by one, it's really an eyesore. Lousy wants to see with his own eyes how long you guys can protect this kid. Scary bloodshots ooze out of Golden Lion's pupils. Many shots were interrupted and intercepted. He was also angry. Wield a knife. Roar. Roar. There were two more earth-shaking roars. Two huge lions of the same size as before, once again rose to the sky. At this moment, boundless crimson, dazzling golden light. At the same time rising from both sides of the battlefield. The sky full of magma sprayed out like a bursting pillar of fire. Countless high-heat light bullets whizzed past like squally showers. After two deafening noises, the terrifying explosion completely destroyed the two huge lions. Magma Great Eruption. Shining Bachichong Guyu. Immediately after, two figures appeared on both sides of the battlefield. One red and one yellow, extra eye-catching. Domineering. Go, kid, I owed a lot of kindness to the old man Zephyr. This time it's a part of paying off. Akainu slowly retracted his fist that melted into scarlet magma, pressed his military cap, his face gloomy. Yoshi, I just want to see how much you can do. Kizaru opened his hands with a funny expression and smiled. The two voices fell. Roy smiled slightly. When the ground underfoot cracks, the figure flew straight up. The golden lion suddenly uttered an angry roar, his eyes were scarlet. You damn kids. Death to Lousy. His figure is actually a swing. Dive down like a falcon. The sharp light gleamed in midair. Sakura 10 and Dead Wood, two peerlessly famous knives burst out with staggering edges. The afterimage suddenly appeared, swaying at an incredible speed. The boundless shadow of death quickly enveloped. Roy let out a painful growl. The muscles on his body seemed to burn, showing a bloody red color. The swollen muscles and the water chestnut figure give people a perfect sense of explosion. A picture flashed across his mind. The strength of the whole body, with an astonishing sense of explosion, gathered in his palm. Under the entanglement of light blue energy, it shows the edge of ultimate. It's like an invincible gun. 6 styles finger pistol Lien Hua broken. Two figures, crashing together in the sky. Then, it exploded. Boom. The solid ground surged like a wave with terrifying waves, spreading out for hundreds of meters with the location of the two people as the center. The shocked dust wave turned into a black mushroom cloud and lifted into the sky, and the ground instantly became dilapidated. Even the heavy fortresses and military fortresses covered by the shock wave were all shattered in the blink of an eye. Broken corpses floated on the ground, buildings were destroyed, and under the light and dark sky, the accounts looked like a picture of doomsday. Next moment, a figure flew upside down, dragging a shocking bloodline in midair. The figure flew tens of meters and then shook, stopped the figure, panting heavily, and let out an angry hoarse roar. You damn kid. You. How dare you? I will never let you go. Everyone was stunned, looking at the golden lion whose eyes were filled with bloodshot eyes with a dull expression, and an unbelievable thought came into his heart at the same time. The legendary great pirate, the head of the flying pirate group, the Flying Admiral, Golden Lion Shiki. It was hurt. At this moment, the Golden Lion no longer has the kind of Jiu and hockey at the beginning of the war. Instead, they are replaced by the madness and violence in the despair. The originally smooth and flowing golden mane, mixed with dazzling blood, sticks to the clothes viscously, and his expression becomes distorted because of excessive anger. The two famous knives on his broken foot were dripping blood. The most shocking, it's his belly. A fuzzy blood hole the size of a fist appeared in his left abdomen, and the gurgling blood continuously overflowed from it, staining his trousers red. Roy actually managed to hurt the golden lion Shiki. Everyone on the battlefield was so shocked by this scene that they could not speak. They subconsciously turned their gazes toward the deep pit with billowing smoke. That marine boy, standing in the deep pit crisscrossed with sword marks, the skin seemed to be full of dry and cracked marks, and blood was flowing, soaking the ground under the feet. He did not move, because he can't move at all. Thick white smoke emerged from the surface of every inch of his skin, and the thick light blue airwave was dying like a candle in the wind. His eyelids opened a small crack with great difficulty. The faint light gleamed faintly in it, at the chest. The two tragic sword marks showed a staggered form, as if to cut his entire chest open. The blood fell down cracklingly. Die. Die. Die all to Lousy. All of you, let Lousy all die here. Feeling the heart-piercing pain from the abdomen of his body, Golden Lion's face gradually turned pale, but his eyes burst into incomparably crazy cold light. I saw him suddenly waved his hand heavily, in an instant. In the horrified and almost frozen eyes of countless people, the thick black cloud in the sky above spread out suddenly. A touch of huge black shadow, it quickly enlarges and spreads above everyone's head, like a boundless shadow. The bottomless fear, as the dark shadow spread, quickly enveloped the brains of everyone on the battlefield, causing them to tremble deeply and uncontrollably. That is the fear from the depths of the soul. This is impossible. What is this? Can we really be able to fight against such a force? We can all die here. Not only marine, but also pirates. All of them looked pale and desperately looking at the huge shadows gradually appearing behind the clouds, and a bottomless pit like chill gushed out of their hearts. Hey, it's terrible. This is not a joke. Kizaru held his sunglasses, fumbled with the stubble on his chin, and a cold light flashed under the sunglasses. The expressions of Aokiji and Akainu sank to the bottom. Garp and Sengoku couldn't help but glance at each other, both seeing the fear buried deep in each other's eyes. They couldn't help clenching their fists, and the blue veins on the back of their hands bulged. Golden Lion, this lunatic. The two of them scolded in their hearts. Gia ha ha ha. Did you see it? Sengoku, Garp. And Roy, you marine kid. Seeing the desperate, scared and pale faces of the marines, the Golden Lion couldn't help opening his arms and letting out a ferocious laugh. None of you can protect it. Revenge. Relax, none of you need revenge. Because you are going to be buried in this sea like this Marineford soon. From today, naval headquarters will no longer exist in this world. Keep your eyes open and take a look. This is the big gift Lousy has prepared for you. The voice fell. In the sky, the earth-shaking roar came from afar. Those black shadows finally became extremely clear. It turned out to be a huge floating sky island that is large enough to cover the sky. Floating Sky Island. Dozens of large-scale floating sky islands, like dense black city walls, and black plume clouds, are firmly pressed against the sky. The shadow of the island that covered the sky and the sun completely blocked the skylight in the night at this moment, allowing the whole world to enter the boundless darkness. Golden Lion, a lunatic, he actually floated so many giant islands to this battlefield. Unimaginable. If these dozens of huge floating sky island all fall from the sky, what a shocking and terrifying picture it will be. The coming of the doomsday natural disaster. Gia ha ha ha. Feel the fear, you stupid Marines. No matter who you are, you can't even save yourself. Revenge. Do not make jokes. The only one who can get revenge today is my Golden Lion. The torture and humiliation suffered in the impel down prison in the past 2 years, as well as Lousy's amputated feet. All the pain, I will give you back all the pain. Golden Lion's face was mad. His eyes were full of violent crimson, the distorted expression and blood on his body made him look like a devil crawling out of hell. The voice fell, he waved his hand hard, he made a frantic grin. Death to Lousy. Rumble. At this moment, a burst of scalping, vibrating and roaring sound came from the dense floating sky islands in the sky, and fierce white cyclones slowly erupted at the bottom of the floating sky islands. The explosive sound of the air, from scratch, becomes extremely intense. Dozens of large floating sky islands start to fall. It is conceivable that if all these dozens of floating sky islands are allowed to fall to the ground of Naval Headquarters Marineford, it is estimated that it will only take a few seconds. The impact and destructive power caused by the fall is enough to wipe out all people on and off Marineford, including civilians. Without exception, even the entire island structure where Marineford is located will be violently crashed and the entire island sinks into the depths of the sea. This will be the worst and most terrifying disaster since Marine was established. Shaki, you bastard. Are you going to kill all your subordinates? Garp roared angrily at this time, and there was an indispensable haze in his bloodshot eyes. The crowd of the flying pirates also burst into wailing and screams. Head of Golden Lion, we are following your subordinates. Can you let us die here with Marine? We are loyal to you and we are working for you. Help us. We want to go back to New World. We don't want to die here. At this moment, the pirates have forgotten the Marine in front of them, and put down their weapons, but unwillingly and weakly praying to the figure in the sky for their survival. Subordinate? Tisk tusk tusk. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. The corners of Golden Lion's mouth were raised first, and then a frantic laughter erupted with incomparable mockery. Lousy wants as many things as he wants. This is an excellent era. Roger, the era you created with this one hand, the most indispensable, as this passionate and innocent Qinghai thief. As long as Lousy does not die in one day, with my name, I can recruit a large number of top-notch pirates casually. So-called subordinates, so-called partners, other shit comrades, is it important? Golden Lion sneered and opened his arms wantonly. Root. Ben. Just. No. Heavy. Want. As long as I sink this Naval Headquarters Marineford into the sea today, I, the Golden Lion Shaki, will be the most famous and prestigious pirate in this sea. Whether it is Roger or Whitebeard, the accomplishments they have established are simply not comparable to me. Because Lousy did what they couldn't do, so, my lovely subordinates. Golden Lion stopped smiling, his expression and eyes shudderingly cold, condescendingly overlooking the desperate and miserable faces of the flying pirates below, smiled slightly. In order to achieve my ambition and dominance, you will sacrifice here. Rest assured, there are hundreds of thousands of elite naval headquarters, and millions of civilians, who will be buried with you. This is your glory too. Jihahaha. Rumble. The explosion of the air became more and more intense, and it was getting closer. Pieces of red flames brewed away at the bottom of the floating sky island, which was gradually accelerating downward. The world in front of me was red and tragic, buzzing. Boom 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 boom. The air pressure explosion sound, as sharp as it was about to pierce the eardrum of a person, became more and more intense, more and more piercing, and completely overwhelmed the wailing and screaming of the thief of the earth. The scale of each floating sky island is extremely terrifying. Under the traction of gravity and the terrifying mass, the impact force caused by friction with the air is enough to detonate a violent sonic boom. The friction between the bottom of the floating sky island and the atmosphere has caused countless fires. From the battlefield of the Earth, dozens of floating sky islands are like dozens of meteors that obscure the sky, penetrating behind the clouds in the sky, dragging the fiery red tail, and falling heavily. The weird dark red, as if threatening to annihilate the world, dyed the sky red. Damn. What shall we do now? We can't resist this kind of ability at all. The sound of gnashing teeth came from the Marine crowd. The Marines who are present here are all elites from the headquarters and major branches. Everyone is an elite soldier who has experienced many battles. Facing such natural disaster level abilities and tricks, there is no way. Roy, are you okay? Momosagi's figure flickered to Roy's side, carefully and worriedly looking at the boy Marine, whose skin was red as if he was burning with smoke, and his eyes were red. Roy moved his eyelids with difficulty, glanced at Momosagi, and squeezed a stiff smile on his face. Momosagi Vice Admiral, go, I'm fine. The overall situation matters, to prevent this disaster. Save everyone. Momosagi was taken aback. She could feel Roy's weak aura like a candling, but she didn't expect him to be under such a heavy pressure and pain in his body. At this time, he was concerned for the first time and still wanted to save people. She gritted her silver teeth immediately, and the figure quickly jumped in the direction of Sengoku and Garp. Snapped. The terrifying air pressure suddenly erupted, and cracks suddenly appeared on the ground, like a huge black snake continuously spreading in all directions. Dozens of floating sky islands that traverse the sky completely cover everyone's heads. They are getting closer. The frantic laughter from Golden Lion was also getting sharper and harsher. On the entire battlefield, at this moment, all fell into a bottomless silence, it seems that everything has entered a dead silence. The wind was mixed with cold rain, slapped people's bodies mercilessly and sadly, and the whole world became silent. Only the rapid hum of the sky island falling above the head was constantly amplified. In the wind and rain, a piece of silence. Marines, pirates, civilians, everyone on and off Marineford unanimously put down their actions. In the face of such a natural disaster that can destroy everything, all their actions are meaningless. Any action, whether it was running away, resisting, or crying and praying, it was all in vain. No matter what they do, nothing can be changed. Unwillingness, despair, pain, regret. All kinds of emotions are intertwined in people's eyes in a complicated way, and finally become dazed and sluggish. Everyone on the battlefield stood still, dropped the weapon in his hand. Frozen motionlessly, looking blankly at the sky above his head. It's like sculptures in the wind and rain. Gia ha ha ha. What a perfect expression. I have been waiting for this day for a long, long time. Golden Lion opened his arms unscrupulously and grinned, his face full of excitement and excitement. 2 years of torture and pain, to this day Lousy is finally coming to revenge. His gaze drifted towards the Marine kid who dared to hurt him subconsciously, and said grimly. Roy, right? Look at all of this, open your eyes and see, this is the gap between you and me. This kind of gap can't be restored by hard work and desperation. Without enough strength, still want to avenge your so-called comrade in arms wishfully? Ridiculous. Golden Lion spit out bloody sputum. Justice? Shit justice. Only strength as axiom. Come. He grinned and hooked his finger at Roy. Don't you want revenge? Come. Kill me. Gia ha ha ha. But you can't move anymore. Even if you kill me, you can't stop everyone here. All your comrades in arms die in front of you. Are you finished? Roy's cold and hoarse voice suddenly sounded, interrupting Golden Lion's grin. Golden Lion was stunned. The Marines who stood still in place were also stunned. Even the pirates were stunned. Roy's voice continued to ring, as if his throat had been burned. So you think your revenge is the same as mine? He suddenly asked such a question. Roy's resolute voice slowly sounded on the battlefield. Although the sound is not loud, it is enough to attract everyone's attention, and it seems to have overshadowed all the noise between the world and the earth. Golden Lion frowned and sneered. What's the difference? Roy shook his head. You think you have endured countless pain and torture for 2 years in prison, but that is what you deserved. You are a pirate. There are countless Marines and civilians who died in your hands. You have allowed countless wives to disperse and destroy their families. 2 years of imprisonment will not make up for the harm you have done to those people. You are not qualified to talk about revenge. Rumble. The roar above my head is getting louder and louder. Even Roy could clearly feel the astonishing pressure caused by the falling of dozens of floating Sky Island. The bitter wind blew away his bloody hair, revealing his biting, narrow eyes. The ground beneath his feet cracked inch by inch, and the stone crushed by air pressure danced wildly in the void, slashing Roy's cheeks, revealing faint bloodstains. Make up. Atonement. What a naive idea, kid. The Golden Lion looked mocking, dismissive of the authenticity. Isn't it normal for the strong to rule the world and occupy the top of the food chain? The weak are the ants. When have you ever seen a male lion show sympathy and compassion for a sheep hunted by him? If you don't understand this truth, you won't be able to become stronger in your life. The patter of cold rain slapped people's cheeks, and slapped Roy's body. It was built on the blood-filled ground, with ripples. The world seems to have fallen into a weird stagnation at this moment. Everyone on the battlefield was silent. Roy paused. He stood at the very center of the battlefield, looking around. The sky was dull and pitch black, and there was no light in sight except the fiery red. Does becoming stronger mean bullying? His eyes were in a daze, and he muttered in a voice that only he could hear. Do not. He suddenly shook his head. Not like this. He may have been an ordinary person before, an ordinary person who was thrown into the crowd and never found again. But now, he was able to stand at the center of the wave of this era. Fight side by side with the strongest person in the world. Roy asked himself that he had never done anything bullying. The truly strong do not need to rely on bullying the weak to become strong. He thought this way. The blood in my heart gradually boiled. The thoughts in the brain became firmer and firmer. At this moment, a roar suddenly exploded on the battlefield. Then a burly figure flew up from the ground. Golden Lion, the old man will not allow you to ruin this place. It's Garp. I saw his figure slammed into the floating Sky Island that fell first like a cannonball, wrapped armament hockey's fist, and hit the bottom of the island. Snapped. Boom. Numerous cracks exploded at the bottom of the island and continued to spread. With a loud noise, the island was turned into a sky full of rubble and burst open. Garp's figure hovered in the air like a god of war, the cloak of justice fluttering behind him. His eyes were tough. He looked at Roy and said solemnly, "The world's ruthlessness towards the weak is stronger than any shield. The summit can only be reached by stepping everyone under your feet. What scenery can you still see? A small part is used for destruction, and a large part is used for protection." Smiling behind me, live on. "At this point, you should understand, Roy. You are a student of Zephyr. His justice is guardianship." Next moment, golden light rises. Sengoku was also incarnate as a huge war Buddha, blasting a heavy golden shockwave with one palm, completely blasting another floating sky island to pieces. "Roy, you have done well enough, leave it to us next." Sengoku roared wildly. At the same time, Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru, Momoshagi, T-Dolphin. All the powerful marine high levels have burst out their strongest abilities and tricks, and continue to destroy the crazily falling islands in the sky one by one. In an instant, the colorful rays of light in the sky flicker constantly. Flames, magma, hail, laser. The dazzling attack has completely turned into the last barrier guarding the sanctuary of justice, Marineford. Everyone was dumbfounded. After a short while, many Marines reacted, gritted their teeth and roared, "Protect Marineford! Protect our home! Kill!" Some of them stepped on moonwalk and lifted their weapons into the air, attacking one after another floating sky islands. The rest of the ordinary soldiers also adjusted their mentality and hurriedly controlled the heavy fort to fire into the sky. Boom. Rumble. Rumble. A series of explosions exploded overhead, and dozens of floating sky islands were continuously defeated. The falling rocks in the sky fell like a violent storm. I don't know how many Marines and pirates were killed. The world is in chaos. The falling rocks in the sky are like a big net of death, completely covering the huge Marineford battlefield. The roar of falling rocks, the miserable howls of people. The sound of civilians running wildly and crying. Keep coming from my ears, going deep into the soul, stimulating Roy's brain. The sight in front of him has long been blurred by blood, and all the Marines present are working hard for their lives, the lives of their comrades, the lives of their family, and the home under their feet. The earth shook anxiously, and the crackling sound of crazily cracking was like a crisp thunder. Gee ha 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 ha. Is that useful? No matter how hard you try, you won't be able to save everyone. Golden Lion's eyes were full of madness and grinning, but his eyes were fixed on Roy, who was motionless on the ground. What's the matter, Marine kid? Don't you just stand and watch the show? Keep your eyes open and see, your comrades in arms are all falling down. Have you forgotten the big talk just now? You came to kill me. He sneered, and his voice was full of insults and provocations. Roy, don't be irritated by him. He is asking you to die. Garp smashed a crazily falling island again in midair and roared with red eyes. Roy is in the middle of the battlefield at this time. Although his body has reached its limit, it is extremely difficult even to maintain a standing posture, but he is still in a relatively safe position. His body is surrounded by densely packed Marines, and the pirates have completely given up the courage to continue fighting because of Golden Lion's crazy actions, completely lost their fighting spirit, just stock their heads, and constantly avoid the falling rocks in the sky. Golden Lion has been injured, in this case. This ambitious guy definitely didn't dare to take the risk and rush towards Roy. And this distance, even if Golden Lion makes a move, Garp and others also had time to rescue. What Garp is most afraid of? It's that Roy can't stand Golden Lion's provocation. Rush into the sky to confront him again, if that's the case. Others can't support the battle in the air at all. Send to death? Golden Lion laughed wildly. Yes, I just want you to die. What's wrong, don't you dare. Aren't you going to take revenge? Don't even have the courage to work hard? Or, you are no different from ordinary people, just a selfish kid who cherishes his precious life. Roy clenched his fists. He pulled the corners of his mouth hard, and the muscles in his legs contracted slightly. But just such a muscle contraction action caused a blood mist to explode on his calf skin. The intense pain flooded into his brain, causing Roy's pale as dead face to flush with a sickly blush. Can't hold on? My body, is it really the limit? But this feeling. Damn it, are you unwilling? Roy's vision became more and more blurred, somehow. Countless pictures flashed through his mind suddenly. He began to think back from the journey to the present. In just a few months, the people he met, places visited, the night sky at Marineford at 4 o'clock in the morning. The peaceful military academy has turned into a piece of scorched earth. He did not spend a long time in this world, he hasn't met many, many people. I haven't been to many, many places, but before you know it, those days of peace, ease, and secret efforts. Those who met in those good times, it became a souvenir in his mind. The school field in the dark, Zephyr's surprise. The bomb in the training class, Heine's review. Class of laughter and laughter, the nagging of the uncle and aunt of the breakfast shop in the downtown area. Perhaps, at many moments when he thought he could not survive. These are the beautiful bits and pieces in daily life. Support him to continue walking. Feng Yu let go of his hand and slapped his shaky body, pushing his scarred young body to and fro in the wind and rain. Can't hold on? In my mind, the voice of the system sounded abruptly. Lines of small blue characters appeared before my eyes. You have done a good job, impeccable, it is the evaluation of you by this system. Roy smiled and said nothing. His eyes were just staring at the grinning golden lion in the sky, his fists clenched very tightly. The system is silent. It seems to be aware of something. After a while, it heard a voice again. According to my assessment, based on your current physical state, you now have two choices. First, just stay still. In this war, as your participation in the war has been reversed, Naval Headquarters may suffer a lot of damage, but Golden Lion cannot win. Second, use life to return. With your current understanding of Marine 6 styles, you can already use life return to restore part of your physical strength. It's just that in this way, your combat power will be greatly reduced, and you will only withdraw from the state of 8 inner gates, but then you can go to civilian areas to support and save more lives. Roy was silent. Two options, to be honest. Just sit on the sidelines and retreat. He gritted his teeth. So, no matter what measures I take, that guy will escape alive, right? System Road. Yes, with Golden Lion's combat power and abilities, no one in the field can stop him from leaving. Roy said coldly. In other words, all the destruction and destruction, the sacrifice of countless lives, just disappeared like this? We can only stare at that guy and escape, he roared furiously in his heart. Yes, this is the result of the evaluation of this system. I don't know if it is Roy's illusion, the sound of the system is actually a kind of regret. Roy's heart was suddenly full of bitterness. An emotion called unwillingness is constantly washing and stimulating his brain and soul. He knows that there is nothing wrong with the systematic assessment. Even if this system called self-discipline usually looks so unreliable, it can even do the F***king thing of taking over the compulsory training of your own body. But once it's an important and critical moment. Systematic evaluation and judgment never missed it. But it was this accuracy that made Roy feel the darkness in front of him. Roy couldn't help sighing. The sound of ground cracks and vibrations under my feet are getting stronger and stronger. All around are tragic images of Marine falling down and dying in battle. A lot of blood even splashed on Roy's face. The surrounding Marines still densely surround themselves and protect themselves. Can I choose neither? He suddenly said silently in his heart. The system made a noise. This is the best choice at the moment. In my opinion, your physical condition does not allow you to make any other choices. You are dying. Roy clenched a fist. The blood-stained smiling face of Marine Vice Admiral came to mind again. I don't want to make these two choices, he said firmly. The system was silent again. What do you want? Roy raised his head. The blood-stained face is full of light clouds, but it is a piece of fortitude. I want to kill that Golden Lion. He stared at the figure in the sky that was still grinning and trying to provoke and irritate himself, only feeling the incomparable fire in his heart. The system was silent for a while, then suddenly said, Are you sure you have to do this to this degree? Actually, you don't have to. No one can save everything, not just you, including my previous countless hosts, can't do that. Why do you have to kill him? Because of anger. Because you were unwilling? Roy's mouth twitched. Because I don't want to give up easily. Because this is something that must be done. He blinked, and the picture in front of him seemed to become clearer. Don't want to give up. Must do? The system's voice was puzzled, it seemed incomprehensible. Yes, Roy sighed. He stood there blankly, his emotions pouring out. In an instant, he once again remembered himself from the previous life. I remember I said that before, I was a coward who liked to give up. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. I took the exam for level 4, I signed up, and finally thought that I couldn't get up on the day of the exam, so I fell asleep and didn't take it seriously. When I met a girl I like in school, I didn't dare to pluck up the courage to run up and ask others to take WeChat. I just thought jokingly, how could such a beautiful girl like herself? The brothers in the same dormitory went to exercise and go to fitness one by one, but I was tenton sitting in the dormitory, playing mobile games and watching videos. My wisdom did not grow much, but my waistline rose more than one circle. No matter what it is, if you encounter such a little setback, if you encounter a little difficulty, you will decisively give up, and the good name is that lousy will not take care of. I want to come back now, I'm just a cowardly kid who dare not make promises to myself easily. Because I'm afraid that once I promised myself what I would do, it would be too embarrassing if I didn't do it in the end. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I even found an excuse to avoid failure, but I didn't even know that I had always been in failure. He raised his head slightly, with tears in the corners of his eyes, and his eyes were red. The first time in the military academy was the first time in my life that I was protected. It felt really uncomfortable. In any case, I want to take revenge and kill that bastard. I don't want to just give up like I did before. His tone was low and decisive. Too many people died in this war. My classmates, my comrades in arms, and civilians who have never met before. Someone has to come and find justice for them. I don't want to give up. After the system listens. There was a long silence, a long time. It was so long that even Roy thought it was down. Until after several breaths, suddenly, there was a thunderous bang in my mind. Congratulations. You are a man who truly understands the true meaning of self-discipline. Your choice this time will completely usher in your new life. Never give up. This is the highest standard of self-discipline. Self-discipline is not imposed on you by others, but from your inner motivation. Your belief is worthy of the recognition of this system. From now on, all your actions will no longer be restricted by this system. Your body owns it and will no longer accept the mandatory takeover of this system. The system will make corresponding adjustments to this change. From this moment to the end of your life, where your will is going is the ultimate goal of this system. Any choice you make, the system will provide assistance and support without reservation. Next, please receive your reward. Then, please enjoy your youth, without regret, without regrets. The moment the system's voice was silent, Roy was shocked. Next moment, on the entire battlefield, everyone. Both stared with shocked eyes, because they saw the light. The azure beam of light rose up into the sky, tearing open the darkness of the sky. There are cracks in everything, that's where I hope to shine. 8 Inner Gate 6th Gate Jingmun. Open. Light, the dazzling blue light, like a column of blue flames. Rising from the center of the battlefield to the sky. Go straight into the sky. This moment, everyone present. Whether it's a marine or a pirate, they were all staring at this magnificent scene with shocked faces, and there was an incredible shock in their hearts. What is this? It's Roy. He is actually able to explode with such a powerful aura. How can this be? It's so powerful and oppressive. There were bursts of exclamation in the marine crowd, and the marines who had protected him firmly around Roy were forced to step back by the majestic and terrifying aura. But in the blink of an eye, Roy's body has been cleared of empty space. Boy, are you going to die? Do you dare to break through the limits of your body again? Or do you want to spend the rest of your life in a hospital bed? At this time, there was a hoarse and deep angry roar in the sky, and even a kind of anger and depravity in his tone. I saw Garp's red eyes once again smashed a floating sky island above his head fiercely. His angry eyes, but he hadn't left the thin figure looming in that magnificent beam of light. Sengoku, who was transformed into a golden Buddha, stared at the beam of light worriedly, and sighed deeply in his heart. He didn't expect Roy to be so stubborn, even worse than his teacher Zephyr, the bastard. You know, the momentum and energy that burst out of Roy at this moment, even Sengoku, a strong man who stands at the pinnacle of this sea, is also shocked by it. How long has Roy been training in the military academy? It takes only a few months to make a full calculation. Is his fragile physical state really able to support this terrifying force? The answer is naturally beyond doubt. Roy, stop now. Don't be impulsive. On the other side, Momoshagi, who holds the golden sword in his hand, also shouted with a pale face. In those delicate and beautiful eyes, the eye sockets were already full of moist. Hey, this kid, really? Cha Dolphin smiled bitterly and shook his head. Aokiji stood silently on the spot, staring blankly at the figure, his fists clenched subconsciously, and an astonishing and extremely cold air gradually emerged from the surface of his body. In the depths of Akainu's solemn and stern eyes, a touch of appreciation and approval flashed quickly in it. It's really hard work. It always makes me feel annoying. Yes, it's the feeling of the old man Zephyr. Kizaru grinned and sneered. But the young man in the blue light wave did not pay attention to anyone else's thoughts and voices. He just constantly, almost stubbornly, the unfamiliar, huge, and gradually familiar power erupted frantically and wantonly. The light became more and more intense. On the pitch-black battlefield with constant rumbling and loud noises. The world gradually shines. High in the sky. Golden Lion looked at Roy with a terrifying aura with a startled look in his eyes, and there was a sense of jealousy in his heart. The clamor and provocation just now were gone, and his expression was unusually stiff. This kid, how could he still possess such terrible power? Isn't his body already at its limit? Does he really want to die? Do you want to die? Garp Vice Admiral. Just as the whole world was immersed in the shock of this scene. Roy's low, faint laughter sounded slowly. His voice is very soft. There is an indescribable calm and madness, but anyone can hear the coolness and joy in his heart. You are right. The world's ruthlessness towards the weak is stronger than any shield. In this sea, there are countless people who rely on their so-called strength to step on the weak and the younger generation, and take this as common sense in the world. However, there is a man who once told me that the strong always want to protect the weak. There was a burly purple-haired figure standing in front of the ward window laughing wildly but with reddish eyes in Roy's mind. I can do it, he clenched his fist, boom. It was just such a subtle movement that caused the surrounding air to swept up in astonishing hurricane, crushing the earth to pieces, and countless rocks dancing in the air. No one else can. He took a step, boom. There was another weird vibrating roar, sand and rocks flew under his feet, and a large cobweb-like crack broke out on the ground. The entire battlefield seemed to be able to feel the terrifying weight of Roy's foot. So I have no shirk. Call, he let out a long breath. The hot breath condensed into a white flag in the air in front of him. This is really a terrible world. Roy smiled and slowly raised his head. Scarlet eyes focused on the golden lion in the sky. Garp Vice Admiral, I don't need to smile behind anyone to live. Because Roy's eyes dazzled, laughing. Unstoppable. Next moment, boom. The earth rises layer by layer like an ocean. Roy's figure is like an azure tiger, roaring and roaring. Strength. Unprecedented power, from every cell, every acupuncture point, every meridian in the body, it spews out unscrupulously like a mountain torrent. In the line of sight, the void in front of him seemed to be distorted in layers, and the surrounding scenery receded backwards at an uncapable speed. This is the line of sight effect brought about by the speed of ultimate. Roy never felt that he could be so strong. This kind of self-confidence, as if a punch is enough to break a mountain, is simply indescribable. This is the state where Roy opened the 6th gate of the 8 inner gates. 8 inner gates is a training system that breaks through the limits of the body. When each door is opened, the power and speed that the body erupts will be earth-shaking changes. And once he entered the state of the 6th gate, view gate, his body also entered a state similar to a semi-buffered state. Of course Roy is very clear in his mind, this is not his own power. He is not even the powerful force that his current terrible and riddled physical condition can support. The power that is enough to shock Golden Lion, Garp and Sengoku comes from the system. Because of his never give up will, the system recognized him. And gave him this reward that he shouldn't have. However, this is not important anymore, because Roy has decided not to escape. Don't be the coward who gave up lightly when encountering a little difficulty and hindrance. He has found what he should do, what he should do. At least, at this moment, he knows better than ever. To kill the culprit of this war. Come on, Golden Lion Shiki. I have made my choice, no matter it is anyone. Can't stop me. This is my final decision. Kill. Boom. Step on the air with one foot. There was a sharp blast from the void beneath his feet, and Roy's figure bloomed again with a more terrifying speed. In a flash, his figure appeared in front of Golden Lion like a ghost. How? How could it be possible? How could you have such a powerful force? Looking at the sticky blood-stained face in front of him, Golden Lion was a little panicked for a while. This marine kid, why not die? He is obviously not working anymore. In observation Hockey's perception, his breath has clearly fallen to the bottom. There were obvious tears in at least 20 muscles up and down his whole body. His internal organs are also obviously depleted. And the lack of oxygen caused by heavy bleeding. The 2 deep bone sword marks left on my chest. Everything. It all shows that this damn kid will definitely not be able to continue fighting. Not to mention that, like an immune to death, Xiaoqiang burst out more powerful combat power than before to kill himself. Golden Lion asks himself that he has ridden the sea for countless years, and has seen numerous figures and geniuses who have astounded the world. But I have never seen this kid like this, pervert. But the next moment, he was stunned suddenly. Because he finally saw Roy's messy black hair flying in his eyes. What kind of eyes are that? With the coldness and calmness of ultimate in the madness. In the pity, there is a decisive determination. Because I don't want to lose. Roy's cold, hoarse voice rang in front of him. Golden Lion was taken aback, a fist bursting with blue air. It was slammed towards his face, boom. Golden Lion let out a muffled grunt. The entire face was twisted into an exaggerated arc by the punch, and a mouthful of blood was spit out from his mouth. Broken teeth were even mixed in the blood, swaying all over the sky. Boom. The air wave broke out. Golden Lion turned into a kite with a broken line, like a blood-colored meteorite crashing into the earth at an astonishing speed. This punch is for my comrade in arms. Roy retracted his fist, his eyes burst with light, and roared up to the sky. Boom. The earth cracked one after another, and the billowing dusty waves were like countless giant dragons dancing freely on the battlefield. All Marines clenched their fists feverishly and excitedly. The blood seemed to be boiling and hot, and the heart was beating wildly uncontrollably. It's so fun. This punch. It's so fun. From the beginning of this war, they fought extremely frustrated. But in front of Roy, this shocking punch full of violent beauty has completely dispelled everyone's inner resentment and unwillingness. If it weren't for this on the battlefield, every one of them wished to grow up like Roy with open arms. Even many young female soldiers in the army could not help covering their mouths with excitement, and crystal tears overflowed in their red eyes. They waited for this punch, waited too long for too long. Damn kid. In the billowing smoke, Golden Lion's hoarse voice came out slowly. In the sky, the black clouds, thick as the city walls, pushed downward, and the sensitive thunderlight flickered and danced in it. The volatile light reflected on Roy's cold face, which was no longer green, and it seemed extraordinarily deep. Do you think what you are doing now can really represent the so-called justice? On the earth, the Golden Lion with his face covered in blood was lying in a huge deep pit, his eyes filled with bloodshot as if he was about to spew out fire. Blood was vomiting in his mouth and he let out a frantic roar. Comrades in arms. Jihahaha. Don't be kidding. I didn't say that I was doing justice. Roy interrupted Golden Lion coldly, his tone infinitely cold. He slowly closed his eyes, and his indifferent expression was full of inexplicable calm. The world is wailing in pain. He heard it. Yes, he really heard it, also saw it. Even if the eyes are closed tightly, he could see every corner of Marineford. Everything that is happening. Garp and Sengoku were stunned at the same time, and couldn't help but glance at each other at a distance, both of which saw the consternation in each other's eyes. Momoshiki covered her red lips, her wet eyes smiled like a flower. It's getting more and more interesting. Kizaru scratched his head and murmured with a funny expression. Aokiji shook his head, his indifferent and lazy eyes gradually ignited, and he whispered to himself. Observation Haki. Dot was awakened. This moment. Roy saw everything. Sight, hearing, touch. The 5 senses seem to have become less important. Because there is a completely different perception ability. From the depths of his body, in his heart. Slowly wake up. He saw, in the reserve department of Naval Headquarters, the young soldier puts a photo of his relatives between his lips and deeply kisses the figure above. In the civilian area filled with gunpowder, the child with Madara's face roared and pulled the trigger, tears rushing out of 2 gullies on their dusty and bloodlined faces. In military academy, in various battlefields. On every corner of Marineford Island, everyone, whether it is official Marines, reserve soldiers or civilians, they have already participated in the war. They carry a variety of weapons that even look funny and ridiculous. The pirates who rushed into their homes with grinning smiles launched a sworn attack and resistance. Marineford is not just a sanctuary of justice. This is our home. Roy suddenly smiled softly. Yes, this is the home for all of us to survive. If anyone breaks in, even if you are the overlord of the New World, the Flying Pirates. Even if you are the legendary big pirate Golden Lion Shiki. Even if you once single-handedly destroyed half of Marineford. Even if you fight with Jade and Stone, we will not make your lives easier. Because we have no retreat. Upon hearing Roy's words, Golden Lion was stunned. Home. This vague concept is an extremely strange and distant vocabulary for a pirate like him wandering in the sea. And just when he was so stunned, Roy opened his eyes suddenly, and a stunning divine light broke out in his eyes. He began to dive, like a falcon that is preying. Began to fall, crazy fall. Right knee. Bend down, suffocating terrifying speed. Crazy blue waves of wind, let him look from a distance as if he was a war gun falling from the sky. Only when you die can you make up for all this. This moment, Roy's indifferent voice resounded throughout the battlefield and even the entire Marineford. Golden Lion's pupils shrank suddenly, and a thin layer of cold sweat overflowed on his forehead. At this critical moment, he gritted his teeth abruptly, and his figure rolled sideways. Boom. The blue figure, like a meteor falling to the ground, crashed into the ground, and once again shocked the monstrous dust. Countless rocks spread out in all directions in the violent shock waves. The figure of Golden Lion also stumbled out of it. He quickly stabilized his figure, but that figure had torn away the scattered stone rain and slammed towards him. You lunatic. Golden Lion roared, swinging both feet at the same time, kicking out 2 sharp golden sword slashes. The dazzling sword slashes easily tore the earth apart, seeing everything smashed into pieces like nothing, and attacked Roy. Roy's eyes condensed, and the speed was unexpectedly increased to meet him. Crazy. Crazy like never before. This is a battle of either you die or I die. No reconciliation, there is no compromise. It's just the madness of blood and blood. And the infinite perseverance to set the opponent and the dead. The golden sword aura whirled and flew, squeezing the air to a terrifying crackling sound. Roy's figure, who was running at high speed, twisted slightly, avoiding his sharp edge in front of him, but inevitably 2 tragic bloodstains appeared on the chest and back of his body. Skin and flesh, he didn't even frown his brow. Wrapped in a fist of surging power, in the horrified eyes of Golden Lion. Heavy bombardment in his abdomen, boom. The power of horror erupted from the fists entwined with light blue airwaves, and the body of Golden Lion suddenly bends into cooked shrimp, and the bloodshot pupils contracted tightly. Behind him, circles of white waves burst out loudly. Boom. Next moment, his figure flew upside down again, smashing several military fortresses one after another like a cannonball. Puff. A large mouthful of scarlet blood spouted out of his mouth. This punch is for all Marine soldiers who died in this war. Roy growled low, gritted his teeth and withstood the heavy pain and injury caused by the wound on his body, and the figure turned into a blue light and galloped out again. His speed is almost ultimate. It was the latecomer who caught up with the Golden Lion that flew upside down first. Boom. It was another punch like a meteor. Golden Lion was smashed into the chin by this uppercut. Several bloody teeth flew out of his mouth, and his figure rose straight into the sky. The bloody flowers in the sky are scattered in the void. After swinging this punch, Roy's figure fell heavily. His face was as pale as a dead man, his chest was undulating rapidly, and he was gasping for breath. He felt that his vision had become blurred again. Gia ha ha ha. You can't kill me. I admit that you are very strong, but you without Master Haki are not yet qualified to kill my Golden Lion. In the sky, Golden Lion bent over and vomited blood again. His face turned pale, and only felt the pain in the position of his abdomen, and his stomach seemed to be overwhelmed. The chin was alive and distorted in an extremely exaggerated arc. The bones inside were clearly interrupted by Roy's punch just now, and even his speech felt a little stiff. But he is still alive. Because of Roy's attack just now, most of his power was resisted by his armament Haki armor defense. Marine boy, accept the reality. Today, you can't kill me anyway. Golden Lion shook his head, his eyes were full of violent grinning. Do not, you will never kill me in your life. On this sea, there has never been anyone who can kill me. Enjoy the rest of your life. Golden Lion endured the severe pain, staring at Roy with a sullen face, his tone of ridicule and contempt that he had never experienced before. You will live in my shadow for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, every next night, you will think of those who died to protect you. And you failed to avenge them in the end. Gia ha ha ha. Just thinking about this kind of scene makes Lousy excited. The Golden Lion laughed unscrupulously, and the sarcasm in the voice made all Marines' faces gloomy and dull. Yes, with Golden Lion's devil fruit ability. No matter what kind of opponent you face, no matter how large-scale war an enemy we face. As long as he wants to go, no one can stop it. And on the battlefield at this moment, Garp, Sengoku, and Akainu Kazaru Aokiji are even more busy defeating the floating sky island in the sky, avoiding the collapse of the entire Marineford, in order to save more people. They can't free up their hands to deal with Golden Lion at all. Upon hearing Golden Lion's words, Roy clenched his fists abruptly. At this moment, Roy, don't give up, come on. Suddenly, a female voice passed through the distance from the battlefield. Roy was taken aback, then turned to look, but I saw Hina rushing out of the battlefield with red eyes. Behind her, the freshmen of the military academy. Ghost Spider, Fire Mountain, Smoker, Mole. All of them flushed and waved their fists excitedly, using their best strength to shout out from the heart. Come on. Roy. The world was silent. Immediately after, on the entire battlefield. Countless Marines, they are all roars of moving mountains and reclaiming the sea. Come on Roy. You can do it. We all believe in you. Faces full of firm confidence, a pair of eyes full of expectation. A fist raised and clenched in midair. This moment, the entire naval headquarters is dedicated to the young man's will. Wave the flag and shout, Gia ha ha ha. Don't be delusional. Golden Lion's face became stiff, and he roared angrily. Boom. Countless rocks and dead objects on the earth rose from the ground and ascended into the sky. The giant lion that covered the sky and covered the sun, opened its blood basin and roared to the sky. Lousy as Golden Lion Shiki. The Golden Lion roared and waved his hand. The deafening lion roar resounded across the sky. So what? A gentle smile appeared on Roy's face. Everyone is cheering for him, cheering for him. How could he disappoint them? Boundless momentum, soaring into the sky. Facing the great lion roaring towards him, Roy's figure leapt high. There is no fear in his eyes, no hesitation, yes and only. It's perseverance. Come on. Momoshagi shouted with red eyes. Go, kid. Sengoku raised his arms and shouted. Kill him. At HB+, Garp roared blushingly. Akainu, Kazaru and Aokiji all clenched their fists secretly. Then, starry fire, burning in the sky. Golden Lion's eyes widened, and his body staggered back. He saw an unforgettable scene in his life. Everyone saw a magnificent scene. The flames scattered on the fist, dyed the sky red. Dazzling like a peacock's tail feathers, like the stars in the sky. Glittering in the dark night sky, Jingmun Chao Peacock. Rumble. The lion smashed, the phoenix bird rises. The world in front of him was gradually swallowed by endless light. The endless light, dazzling and magnificent, completely tore the darkness of the sky at this moment. Everything in front of everyone's eyes became blurred. They all clenched their fists involuntarily, tears filled his eyes. Looking at the roaring lion that seemed to cover the sky and the sun, it gradually collapsed and finally fell apart in the rain of fire in the sky filled with stars. It must be successful, Hina shouted with red eyes. You can do it, Roy. The Ghost Spider and others also roared generously. Yes. Looking at the boy Marine who was constantly swinging his fist in the sky at an alarming speed, punching through the air and smashing out countless sparks and flames. The blood in their hearts, it's already boiling. He may be just a mere military academy, he may never be able to match the three monsters in the army in terms of talent. But at this moment, whether it is military academy students, or tens of thousands of Marine soldiers on the battlefield, they all believe very firmly and without any doubt. He will definitely win. What a beautiful and grand firework, as this youth. Ms. Zephyr, your vision is really good. On the other side of the battlefield, Aokiji braved the freezing air all over, staring at the young figure blankly, and a gentle smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. Not far away, Momosagi's hand holding the sword was trembling slightly. Those beautiful eyes were rippling with autumn waves, as if there were galaxies overflowing in them. Beside, the T-Dolphin saw Momosagi's admiring eyes and excited expression, and curled his lips, thinking that the kid is just a little more handsome than me. The very center of the battlefield, Garp suddenly had red eyes and turned his head with emotion to Sengoku, who was in a daze beside him and said, Sengoku. Have you seen it? Sengoku looked back subconsciously, but was stunned. The crimson light in the sky reflected Garp's wrinkled face as resolute as a knife. In the light and dark, the smile at the corner of Garp's mouth was incredibly mellow, like a pot of spirits that had been in dust for many years. Garp laughed with tears. The old man finally understands why Zephyr would choose that kid. Listen, you see. Everyone is cheering for him. That kid really has 3 different characteristics from Sakazuki and the others. This war has changed because of him. Perhaps. One day, we Marine, no, even in this filthy era, in this terrible and chaotic world, there will be amazing and dramatic changes because of his appearance. Sengoku was silent. He had never seen Garp so solemnly and highly appraised a teenager who was only 20 years old. But what he has to admit is, Garp is right. He heard it, he also saw it, in the perception of observation hockey. The blood and fighting spirit of thousands of Marines is so clear and audible. Sengoku suddenly laughed, raised his head again, moved the realization towards the sky. The figure of the young man has been gradually bathed in more intense flames, like an unyielding, determined and upward phoenix bird soaring towards the free and vast sky. The posterity is terrifying. Sengoku smiled conclusively. Fire light, gradually overshadow everything. The huge lion eventually collapsed, and the one standing on top of the lion. The culprit of this war, the captain of the flying pirates. The legendary big pirate Golden Lion Shiki, also in desperate and unwilling roar. The figure was quickly swallowed by the sky of flames. Then, it is the earth-shaking roar resounding between the heaven and the earth. The billowing smoke turned into a huge mushroom cloud and rose into the sky, covering all the skylight. The ground beneath his feet seemed to be surrendered to the glory and light of the phoenix bird, wailing overwhelmed and shivering. I don't know how long it took, it seems to be a very short moment. It also seems to be an extremely long century. The world in front of me finally slowly became clear. The cool and refreshing sea breeze dissipated the smoke of gunpowder in the sky. The heavy lead cloud hanging in the sky, I don't know when it has all receded. Strands of warm gold, like the fingertips of a giant outside the sky, slowly penetrated the clouds and fell on the sky and the earth. It's daybreak. The world is bright. No war. No gunpowder smoke, without blood and explosions. No screams and wailing. The snow-white seagull flag slowly rises and dances in the air under the blowing of the sea breeze. Suddenly, everyone on the battlefield was involuntarily immersed in the short-lived peace and tranquility in front of them. Maybe this should be the peace that this sea should have. Unfortunately, peace is always short-lived. People reacted quickly. Open your eyes and look towards the ground in the center of the battlefield. Two figures, separated by hundreds of meters. Lying in the broken ruins of Madara. One figure was covered with charred scars, lying on the ground like a charred corpse. His feet are broken. Two sharp knives were mounted on the feet. Golden Lion. He died. Golden Lion is dead. Very good. Golden Lion is dead. We won. This war, we won. The Marine crowd burst into bursts of joy and weeping, shaking the entire naval headquarters. They won, paid countless lives as a price. They defended their homeland, but the next moment, they immediately reacted. They won, so. What about the young man who led them all to victory and guarded justice? People couldn't help but shift their sights to the other figure. Thick black smoke, tragic scars, broken muscles. Red and dry skin. Everyone was stunned, and their eyes reddened again. At this moment, a domineering and majestic figure crashed to the ground. The short purple hair seemed to be flaunted by excessive anger. He carried a person in his hand. Douglas Bullet. Zephyr came. He captured Bullet alive, and obviously suffered a lot of injuries. But he didn't hesitate to look down at the teenager lying in the ruins. Two traces of tears rushed out of those resolute faces. Suddenly, the figure moved its fingers. Zephyr was stunned. Happy face, but the tears couldn't stop flowing out. It's you. Old Zephyr. The hoarse voice sounded as weak as silk. Have we won? The boy asked. Zephyr nodded heavily, choked up. Boy, we won. We Marine finally won the F*King. In the pit, there was a hard smile on the boy's face. That's good, I didn't shame you at all. The moment this sentence fell. Zephyr, an old man who has been tough all his life. He cried so loudly. Then everyone on the battlefield heard Zephyr's roar. Your uncle's military doctor, get out of the old man. If the old man's student and the hero of this war die, the old man will tear down your medical department. See Circle Calendar, September 21, 1502. The legendary great pirate, the once overlord of the New World, and the man alongside Roger and Whitebeard, Golden Lion Shiki, teamed up with the descendants of the devil, Douglas Bullet, an old crew member of the Roger Pirates. Led the flying pirate group to attack Naval Headquarters Marineford in the midnight with lightning speed. This mighty war, which was recorded in the historical texts by later historians as the Golden Lion's Revenge Battle, was finally won with the Naval Headquarters paying an extremely heavy price. The result of this battle directly affected Naval Headquarters' attitude towards the New World Sea area and countless pirates in the next 2 decades. Certainly, in this war, a 20-year-old military academy student quickly attracted the attention of everyone in the world. This Marine boy who relied on his personal strength and strong will and conviction to forcibly reverse the entire battle. In the eyes of countless people on the Marineford battlefield, this boy who bladed the legendary Golden Lion, the great pirate. This teenager who was personally recognized by the former Marine Admiral Black Arm Zephyr and followed by countless young Marines' vows. Finally, his own light and brilliance bloomed in this battle. His blood, his perseverance, his decisiveness and hard work. It has been recognized by everyone, so far. Roy's self-discipline name resounded throughout the world overnight. The sky is hazy, the window is gray. The light breeze was mixed with drizzle, falling precariously, dampening the whole world into a dull tone. This is the military hospital. Disinfectant water and the smell of blood were immersed in this separate ward, and several haphazardly colored slings hanging by the bed were dripping in the hose without death. Woke up. A low and tired voice slowly sounded by the window of the room. Roy didn't need to turn his head at all, just listening to this familiar voice knew that it was Zephyr. Old man. The corner of his mouth squeezed a stiff smile with difficulty. Your Uncle Roy, you still know to laugh. Zephyr by the window suddenly yelled out of breath, turned around, and spitting stars on Roy's face. I told you all. This war is not yet a stage for your military academies to shine and dance. You have never been on the battlefield. Many of you haven't even encountered a real pirate. Why did you try to go to the main battlefield and challenge that bastard Golden Lion heads on? What? Roy was stunned, suddenly unable to say a word. It's not that he doesn't want to explain, but because of Zephyr in front of me. Muddy tears overflowed in the tired eyes covered with bloodshot eyes. Looking at the old, wrinkled, vicissitudes and exhaustion face in front of him, Roy didn't even think about it. It is estimated that the old man Zephyr has been standing here and looking at himself in the past few days when he was in a coma. Thinking of this, there was an unprecedented warm current in his heart involuntarily. He can clearly feel, this hard-tempered, stubborn, grumpy half-hundred-old man really cares about himself. Thank you, Teacher Zephyr. Roy smiled slowly. Zephyr was stunned. The tear marks on his cheeks appeared so clear in the dim light. He suddenly shook his head, raised his hand to wipe the wetness of his eyes, and said with a smile. You bastard kid. Just know to make the old man worry. He slowed down, and softly said to Roy, who was slapped with a bottle, almost covered in bandages and turned into a zongzi. Aren't you afraid? That's Golden Lion. Roy smiled. Lying on his back, he looked blankly but calmly at the empty ceiling, the focus of his eyes gradually diminished. I'm scared. I'm really scared. But I can't stop doing it because I'm afraid, can I? Ms. Zephyr, I don't want to give up casually for all kinds of so-called reasons. In his mind, he once again recalled the scenes of the worse scenes on the earth in the past. The smile on the corner of the mouth is getting richer and more wanton. I always thought that everything happened for a reason. What God lets you experience, lose, and gain must have its truth. I always feel that everything is destined. God is just to let you happen to something wrong, so that you can realize what survival is. If everything goes smoothly all my life, it would be too boring. Fear doesn't mean I have to shrink back. Since I'm here, I don't have to come in vain. Wait when no one is really ready. Lousy won't accompany you. Roy said stupidly. Zephyr stared at Roy who was lying corpse blankly, and suddenly laughed, but he sighed long in his heart. He slowly turned around. Smelly boy, take a good rest and take care of your body. This sea is waiting for you. After speaking, he left the ward and closed the door. He decided to go to the marshal's mansion again. There seems to be a lot of good things on the empty old man's side. Roy is also his own student. Sakazuki must have everything that the three rascals should have. If you don't give it, the old man will demolish his marshal's mansion by himself. Zephyr gritted his teeth and secretly said, clenching his fists. Thinking like this, his footsteps became more and more determined, more and more brisk. Facing the Golden Lion, Roy was scared, and Zephyr felt it. But he still did it. But this is not fair. True bravery does not mean that a person has a gun in his hand to be brave. But before you start, you know that you are bound to lose, but you still do it without hesitation and stick to it no matter what happens. Roy has proven his bravery. And now, Zephyr wants to get a gun for him.